Well, good morning, insiders, and welcome to another episode of the Invo Insider. And I am pumped for today's guest. Today we've got Dan Leeman, the Assistant Vice President of the Contact Center at 5 County Credit Union, and you guys are in for a real treat today. Dan and I are a little jet lagged as we had just come off of a week-long conference in Las Vegas, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, or as much as Dan will let us talk about that. There's this whole thing about what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but I never thought that was a real thing. So before we jump in, though, let's talk a little bit about our guest and who he is representing today. So first, a little bit about 5 County Credit Union. 5 County is based out of Bath, Maine, and they currently service members in a growing area. In fact, rumor has it that they actually support more than 5 counties now, which is interesting. So we may have to get into that a little bit and do some fact-finding there. The credit union currently operates right around $360 million in assets, supporting about 30,000 members. What a great opportunity to service that area through this institution. And that's 5 County. Let's learn a little bit about Dan. So Dan has been with 5 County for almost 17 years. What an incredible career he has had. They have pretty much put Dan in every role at the credit union. That's what I found out when I went in to do a little bit of digging. So Dan has been a teller, a new accounts representative, an administrative clerk, an assistant branch manager, a branch manager, a loan officer, a call center manager, and most recently, of course, the role that he occupies today as AVP of the Contact Center. Now, I also typically go a layer deeper, just because I kind of want to know who we're going to be talking to, and because I want you, the insiders, to know who you're talking to. So, I've also uncovered the fact that Dan is a recreational coordinator. I need to find out what that means. A photographer. And wait for this, a disc jockey. So if at any point all of a sudden he pans his camera over and he gets the wheels out and starts mixing, then we may learn a whole other side of Dan that I didn't know existed. But I hope that does happen. We'll see. So enough about me introducing Dan. Why don't we hear from the man himself? Dan, good morning. Welcome to the Insider.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good. Congratulations surviving that introduction.
Yeah.
What?
You oversold it. Now I'm a little worried.
No, I didn't. I undersold it for sure. The man, the myth, and the legend is even better than his introduction. That's what I know for a fact. Why don't you take the reins, though? Tell a little bit about yourself, as much detail as you would like, as we kind of get in this morning. Let the insiders know a little bit about who you are and maybe your journey within this industry.
Sure. I had an interesting journey. Senior in high school, and just saw an advertisement for part-time teller, but I was going away actually that junior year, and so I didn't apply. So when I came back, I tried to apply, and of course they filled it. And our branch manager, who is now our CEO right now.
Oh, wow.
But at the time, our Topsville branch manager, I harassed her, for lack of a professional term. I stopped in and brought in an application. I made sure I opened an account there, so I had to go in every week with my McDonald's paycheck.
Oh, nice.
And just made sure I said hello, Miss Marquis, every time until they had an opening. And she said she had to put me to work because I bugged her enough. So after graduation, started full time as a teller, and like you said, I've worked in many different roles. In a 5.5-year stint, I left for family reasons for a couple of years. Very fortunate they had me come back, and I've been in the contact center for almost 17 years now. So very blessed to be
That's
there.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow. 17 years in the same department in the same area is probably going to be why we spend probably more time in that specifically. But yeah. So you did a stint at McDonald's. Man, that is where you learned some real work ethic. For sure.
I did. I learned a lot about cross-selling, upselling. I learned about member service, customer service, being on that front line and drive-through for quite a while. So
I think this was last week, I was listening to a podcast from Business Insider that said 1 in 5 Americans have worked at McDonald's at some point in their life. And I'm like, man, that is a statistic.
Was a tough job, but it was a good experience. I learned a lot.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely true. You also learned persistence, obviously, because you hounded the branch manager until you got a job at the credit union. So you learned some life skills at the same time. Yeah. So there's a bunch of paths I want to go down, and be completely honest. And the unfortunate thing here for the audience is that Dan and I have known each other for a few years now, and have been fortunate enough that Invo has been partnered with the credit union to do a number of different things, and Dan has been the project champion during that time. But Dan and I have also been forming a relationship outside of that, and we've brought him down into the Ozarks of Missouri a few times for our annual summit, which is our users conference. We talked about that in the last episode, but then we just are coming off the heels of the international, let me see if I get this right. It's the longest title from a conference.
It is.
The International Credit Union Call Center Conference 2023 edition. I think that was the title.
Yes.
They put a hashtag out to use on social media, and it was literally hashtag, let me see if I could get this right, ICUCCC23. Is that right,
Yes.
Ryan? Did I get that right? Okay, I'm getting confirmation over here. So a little bit about that. It was a great conference. I'd never attended this conference before. Had an opportunity to speak briefly on the second day. So, had you attended the conference before?
Yes, I had been there. My first one was back, I think, in 2009,
Okay.
and then took a little stint not going. Went back in 2019, 10 years later, and then, of course, with COVID, but we went last year and this year. So, actually, that's why I was mentioning it to you guys. I know there's vendors there that I was like, you guys need to be here because people need to know about you guys.
Oh, well, we appreciate that. And I love that because that's the best way we find new avenues for us to evangelize about Invo is things like that. So I thought it was a great show. It was different than some. It's not a large show, but I think you can argue a number of different things about that. You know, we attend the GAC event, which has 5,000 to 6,000 attendees, and you can, for lack of better terms, get lost in the shuffle, if you will.
Right.
Where this is very concentrated and focused on educating and learning about how to better serve members through the contact center. So what was your takeaway? How did you feel about the conference this week?
I really like the fact that it's, first of all, it's credit unions and contact centers, so it is very, specific on what they focus on. And so a lot of it was the networking, talking to the other, supervisors, finding out what their challenges are, what their successes are, and learn how to possibly bring some of that back. And I always think it's important any conference you go to bring at least one thing back and implement it. And if you can do that, it's a successful conference.
Yeah, that's good. I agree. I always feel like it's risky when they bring a conference to Vegas because, if you noticed what I noticed on day 3, we were running at about 50% attendance at that opening session. So
I noticed that
when they started giving prizes out and they had to draw 5 names to get one person finally.
Yes.
It was tough.
Yeah.
But I want to.
Hey, at least you're my witness. I was there.
going to say, I will
witness,
affirm that you and your colleague Amy were both there at the first session. You guys were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You're ready for those prizes. That's what it was.
We were trying.
That's great. So let's kind of get back on track a little bit here. Why don't you share a little bit about Five County Credit Union? I think that's a really good story to tell. And for our insiders that are here who probably don't know much, if anything, about your institution, I would like for you to just maybe tell the story, what makes Five County unique, and get into as much detail as you'd like just to kind of set the stage for our other conversations.
Absolutely. What's great about Five County Credit Union is we started off in 1956 as BIW Employees Federal Credit Union. So we were federally chartered. There was a lot of banks in the area that would only, bank for their local people. Well, the ironworks, a lot of people traveled in, and so they were looking for, a institution, and we actually, they started it right within the ironworks. So we're very fortunate that we have a SEG group that got us started, and they were doing it out of their lunchbox back in '56 with one of the guys there, and just really cool. We're very blessed that our board is very heavily from that SEG group still. We have some new board members that have joined from other things, which I'll talk about in a second. But from there, we actually went state chartered and became BIW Five County Credit Union. During the strikes at the yard and some things, obviously the credit union was starting to struggle. Employees were not working, withdrawing funds, couldn't pay their loans. So we ended up getting the state to give us 5 counties. So we went to BIW 5 county. However, a lot of people still thought you had to be part of BIW only
Okay.
and didn't realize that those 5 counties meant they could join. So we really had to heavily market, yes, you can join. And our board, with a heavy heart, decided to remove the BIW name. Not out of disrespect, more just we want to be able to serve our Bath Iron Works employees and our 5 counties that we were given, and wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to grow and meet their financial needs. So I think we're very fortunate that we have a board and management team that's very forward thinking, looking how we can do that. Within some time, we had a few mergers. Burnham Memorial Credit Union joined us, and then Knox County Credit Union joined us. So we kind of went from 5 counties to 8 counties for a little while there, due to some branches. And just recently, we had Maine Harvest Credit Union merge with us, and Maine Harvest Credit Union brings a nice farming focus. Maine is very agricultural, and some of our northern counties are very, agricultural heavy. So we asked the state, in order to be able to keep that Maine Harvest dream and to help the agricultural community. So we asked the state for those 4 counties, and so now we are 12 county credit union, but we have not changed our name yet. We're trying to incorporate all that at some point here, and how we. But I think you asked what makes us unique. I think it's just important that we are constantly trying to serve the underserved. We have, high risk loan programs for people that just need to start off their credit again. We have first time buyers program where they have zero credit, and we will help them out with that. Small business loans. We try to be out there and help that underserved community, and kind of follow that credit union philosophy of people helping people.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's really good. I mean, I know you've heard me say this before, and I shared it again at the conference. Like, one of my, I think, passions is to bring community banks and credit unions together in a way that we can learn from each other, that we could advance this industry together, we could provide better tools and services to customers and members, and that it's okay that we could be friends. So I love the fact that you could share the story like that, because that's, I think, one thing that our community banking colleagues oftentimes don't have that journey. And it's not a better or worse situation, but a lot of community banks have had the same name and have existed for decades, where you think about the evolution and the growth of the BIW credit union when it was only serving the ironworkers of Bath, to then expanding and then also bringing others into the fold as well. I think about even our time in the last 5 to 6 years, a number of our clients that were Postal Federal credit unions have changed their name, even rebranded. And I mean, you're familiar with like Blue Current Credit Union, who we've talked about before. We used to be Postal Federal. Well, right now, currently, Mobile Oil Federal Credit Union, one of the largest credit unions in the state of Texas, is going through a rebrand to Rave Financial because it's, their membership base has changed and evolved, and that's part of growth. That's part of evolution. But I love your heart for not losing the fact that, what was the genesis of the idea for the credit union? What was the membership base you were looking to serve? And as you have partnered with and brought other credit unions into the fold, making sure that you're serving those communities, such as the ag community that you referenced as well. So let's stay there for just a second, Dan. How do we, and I'm going to ask you to share as much as you like, and I'd love your opinion on it. And serving these different membership bases can have their own challenges, can also have their own unique identities and needs, such as serving an iron worker who's a member versus someone who might be a farmer in the ag space. How has the credit union continued to be relevant and serve those unique and diverse membership bases?
Yeah, I think we're very fortunate that our past CEO and management team was big on getting branches out into our communities, where compared to most main credit unions, I mean, we have a lot of branches. We have 15 branches. And we just think it's important to be in the community and help those communities, and meeting members where they are, which I'm jumping ahead to probably your later questions, I'm sure, but you guys have helped us with the online. But for us, we want to be there, and so what makes us unique or relevant is, we have a business relationship manager that literally goes around and talks to dealerships and finds out what we can do to help people. Goes to businesses, finds out how we can help them with their business. We have a cannabis relationship, individual that goes around. That's big in Maine right now. Some states it's not, but
Sure.
in Maine, so trying to once again help the unbanked in a sense. So, we have our managers that get involved in the community, sponsorships. We are big on trying to help our communities and meet them where they are.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, where did the idea come from to have an individual who would represent the credit union to calling into businesses and things like that? What was the title again? The business development officer?
Business relationship
Yeah.
manager.
So, how did that come to pass? I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, our individual Randy is used to be a branch manager in Auburn and worked with a lot of the dealerships there,
Okay.
and was able to help people with those first time autos, or the high risk credit issues kind of thing. And so with that relationship, they were able to move him into that space to go to the dealerships, find out what's working, what's not. How do we help the dealerships? How do we get the referrals? How do we give, we do an incentive to them for approved loans, and encourages them to send us more information. Meet our business owners that can look at getting, that together. So, helping businesses where they are. We'll do internal anything under 50,000, but we have Business Lending Solutions, a partner of ours that can help with anything over that. So we really want to help our members no matter where they are, what their situation is.
Yeah, I think that's great. And honestly, I was curious what your thoughts and opinions were from a strategy standpoint, but that really mirrors what I kind of figured, which was just the intentionality of wanting to better serve the relationships that you guys already have, but then also identifying ways to better serve additional and new relationships. I think that's how you continue to grow. And let's be honest, that's how 5 county turns into 12 county. But that's not foreshadowing or anything. So that's not trademarked or branded yet. But I think that's great. So let's talk about those branches, and we're gonna jump all around. And this is part of the fun side, I think, for me of this, which is identifying areas to uncover, I think, information that's helpful for guests that are with us that are still evaluating what strategy makes sense, what has worked well for you, something that they should adopt or not adopt. So let's talk about the branch. So you guys currently operate a footprint of 15 locations. And for an institution your size, that is a lot, in my estimation, of locations to operate. You talked about being relevant and being present in these markets, which I also agree and think is important.
Yeah.
I think the branch is more important now than it ever has been. There's a lot of data that comes out of the last 3 to 5 years, kind of pre and post 2020, of what the branch needs to look like. Is it important still? I would argue it definitely is. It doesn't need to look the same. So what are your thoughts about the branch and the relevancy in the branch? And from an operational standpoint, what you see at the credit union, do branches look the same? Are they the same size? Are they staffed the same? How are your products and services distributed? How does that look for your institution uniquely today?
So we're probably a little different. We have one branch that is completely, one ITM and one kiosk in it, with no physical people there on 24/7 premises.
Where's that branch located at?
It's in our Bodenham location.
Okay.
So they have. It was a business owner that actually really wanted us in the area and gave us a small spot in their area off of Main Street in Bodenham.
Okay.
And we're very fortunate that we were able to put in that to help that community. That community lost their credit union and they ended up closing and moving out to another
Okay.
town. So that town was happy to have us come in and do that.
So
We also have our Yarmouth branch that has your traditional towel line, kind of 9 to 4:30, in the lobby. But a glass wall goes up at 4:30, and we're open till 7 o'clock with the ITMs
Yep.
inside, and we have the kiosk inside. So after hours and Saturdays, the branch is still open, but by the call center out of our Lewiston department, and Lewiston is able to help Yarmouth and Bodenham, and Skowhegan sometimes has a host there, or as some of the branches have a concierge. It's kind of ours. It's just they may not use the iPad or anything. They just email us and let us know, and they help answer questions and cross sell the credit union. But that's inside a Walmart.
Oh yeah.
And we have 2 kiosks and 2 ITMs for our membership. So if the staff member has to be pulled to Waterville, which is closer by, and then we have our traditional towel lines like Waterville and Augusta that's in a Walmart, but has that traditional towel line. But every one of our 15 branches has at least one kiosk. With Invo Solutions, I'll add.
Wait, was that a plug? Did he put that there?
That was a little plug.
Ryan's got a tip jar over here with that. He's putting little things in there. So yeah, I don't want to interrupt. I don't know if you were finished telling that story. I've got all kinds of questions.
Yeah, I mean, just we have your traditional branches on top of Walmart locations, and we're very fortunate that we're able to spread out and help our members once again meet them where they are. That's really important to us, which is what our partnership really helped us do.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I've got all kinds of thoughts, and you've actually shared things with me today that I wasn't even aware of, and so that's what I love is I'm right here sitting alongside the insiders who are hearing these stories for the first time, and I want to talk about the very first location you talked about. So that market who had been abandoned without a financial partner, and you guys were able to go in and partner with the business owner to put a kind of a micro branch in, if you will.
Yes.
And you said that location has got a kiosk in that as well as an ITM. And so just a little bit of education for our guests here who don't know what that means. The kiosk is a component of the Invo platform, and this is not a sales pitch arena, but I will just share this for the sake of education. So the kiosk is the in-branch solution that Invo Solutions offers that allows you to bring experts across the financial institution into that branch through a digital touch point, and that could be to open new accounts, do lending, anything that would require a longer interaction, electronic signatures to be applied, documents to be uploaded. So that's kind of what we do in the branch. Very complementary to the ITM, which is the interactive teller machine, which handles retail. And so I love to see those things married together. So that was kind of that's my bit for educating there for someone who maybe doesn't know what that is, Dan. But in that facility, what does that facility look like? Like and I want to get down to the point of if we asked everybody to close their eyes and walk into that facility, what would that look and feel like? I mean, I'm picturing a very small facility. I don't know what the square footage is. You said it could operate without any employees, or maybe it does operate without any employees.
Correct.
How did you? First of all, tell us exactly, make sure I'm telling the story correctly, so correct me if I've mistakenly drawn that image. But secondly, how did the idea come to pass? Like that is stepping outside the comfort zone of what the credit union traditionally has done, I would imagine.
Yeah, we were just at a stage. I mean, we had just opened up Brunswick and Skowhegan, and here we are. Bodenham's asking us to go in, and just at the time looking at adding more staff and how do we make that work? And not to mention, it was a small space. It's about the size of a little bit bigger than an office, maybe, or an office that you'd walk into in a branch. So, there's no separate for us. There's no separate office for the kiosk. You actually, when you walk through the door, you see the kiosk, and to your left is the ITM, and so it is a small footprint, but that's all we really had to work with. Based on the business, size. But it works great. Our members that are close by to our Topsom branch, and they don't have to travel there now. I mean, even though it's next town over, that gives them another option. And with that branch being there, we're open from 8:30 to 7. So we actually have a timer on that door that unlocks and locks the
Oh yeah.
door, and we can go on remotely from our call center in Lewiston and actually lock it. We can go in and arm it early if something comes up. It is auto armed if we forget.
Sure.
So uh, it's under camera. So us supervisors, we have kind of a video cameras of our branches that are uh, unstaffed or could be unstaffed, so we can keep an eye on it and make sure if people have questions or concerns, we can pop right up through the concierge piece and say, hey, how you doing, what can I help you with? And it lets them know that it's not unwatched, it's not unmanned, it's just we're taking care of it remotely.
No, I love that. Are you using some motion detection technology within the video to trigger motion or anything with that?
Not right now. I mean, it's just auto. I mean, we have a live camera screen all the time.
So you're just kind of monitoring it visually then. Okay.
Yeah, just monitoring visually.
Okay. Yeah, that works. I love that. That's
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is very much, I believe, on the cutting edge of what a branch can be, right? I believe that we've got a lot of people we talk with, even on a consulting basis, of how do I go into this market, or even the opposite side of that, which is operating a fully staffed branch isn't profitable anymore. Like, we can't, because of this community and how the community's changed. But we don't want to abandon that market, right? We have to have a leave behind strategy, and something like this solves for that. I love that. Let's kind of go into that retail, which is like the far end of the retail spectrum, the Walmart location, right? And so Invo has a number of clients that have branches within Walmart, and it's interesting to me because no two look alike. And I think that's what I'm shocked by, because Walmart is a cookie cutter design, right? They have X number of floor plans they deploy across the world. And in the front, there's a number of spaces where a financial institution can occupy that. A salon can occupy that. There's these different things. So what does the branch look like for 5 County in the front of a Walmart? What does that visually and experientially look like?
So what's nice is our Walmart branches are very different. We have our Skowhegan branch that I was telling you that has the 2 kiosks and the 2 ITMs with a host. But we also have quite a few that are those traditional branches with that traditional teleline is most of our Walmart branches right now. But every office there has a hybrid model, which means the loan officer could take care of our loan in person there, or if that loan officer is out sick or has an issue, there's no problem. The call center will pick up that loan, so the member never goes without. They never have to worry about, my loan officer called out sick. Well, no problem. The call center will try to help them out when we can. And so we work as a team quite a bit, and that kiosk gives us that option to be hybrid or by itself, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think that's the name of the game, Dan. Today is option, right? And I mean, what you're also solving for there is not only member service through the delivery of the products and services, but internally and even culturally at the credit union. Like, how do we best support our people? And creating flexibility there, I think, is also the name of the game. And of course, we're very proud of the fact, with the team at Invo, of being able to give you that flexibility, because honestly, I think that's it has to exist, because how your members engage is changing and evolving. And I think you said this earlier, which is being able to meet them when and where they want to be met. And I'm very much an advocate of that. I talked about that at the conference last week. But then also, how do we support your staff and the employees at 5 County to be able to live their life, and also continue to support the growth of the institution while serving the membership base?
And to add on to that, meeting them where they're at, our online applications and new accounts have really grown. We have really cross-sold it quite a bit. Our members were used to, before Invo, and we used to have a older software that would use Microsoft Link. Microsoft Link.
Yeah, there's a name.
Microsoft Link would have our IT company kind of created our own like smart office kiosk, and that software was going away at end of life so for us, we started looking around and probably jumping ahead, but for us, reaching out to you guys and seeing the online option was huge for us. The fact that we can meet people online, and we were super excited that, I mean, our first one, his wife couldn't make it in, so she was at home and did her part of the loan, and he happened to come in on his lunch break and came in person on the kiosk
Mm-hmm.
and did his side of the loan and got the check. So for us, meeting members where where they are is really important. It's kind of our model. And we had the kiosk, but now with Invo, we've got the online piece, which is huge for us.
Yeah, no, I don't mind you jumping ahead. I think that's absolutely what we should do. So let's stay there. So yeah, I will never forget, even very early on in one of our very first meetings, which I was fortunate to be a part of, talking about the link system and what you guys were doing. And to be fair, you were trying to forge ahead with something that didn't really exist, but you'd made work, right? And I think that I love that because we can come in and help support taking it to the next level. But what was that process like? So let's go back to the origination of that. So the video as a channel, you guys were able to build and formulate something that was serviceable, but maybe not what you wanted it to be. And then, stepping into a relationship with Invo, kind of walk us through that journey, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, the old smart office had the actual scanner that you'd put in, not the QR code like you guys got
Yeah.
now, and had the speakers. I mean, it was a bunch of moving parts that we encased in a shelving unit that we still use for the kiosk piece, but we don't need some of that stuff like the signature pad and the scanner, and we're able to, in some branches, really keep it clean with a smaller footprint, make it look nicer. So for us, it was really, our members were sort of already used to the video banking in branch. Yeah. But now they're excited when they start their app over the phone. We can say, well, you don't have to come in unless you want to. We can do it at home. And they're like, I can. And we actually haven't really started advertising it yet because we wanted to get through, a few years of us just by word of mouth telling people to do it online and trying it in the office. And we're really planning to push some marketing next year for that online option and giving them that choice, which I'm really excited about. We're actually looking at potentially talking to dealerships about having their client never have to leave the dealership. And what do you think about that? And so we're starting to try to formulate a plan on that right now, which is exciting to think about.
Well, I can tell you how they're going to respond. They'll be excited because anytime someone leaves the car lot, the likelihood of them coming back drops off significantly. So if they can handle financing on the spot, that's great. And yeah, I think that's a good conversation to have offline. And maybe that's even a part 2 of this meeting. We've got a number of our clients today that have video offices in dealerships throughout their market so that they could do in-house financing because the dealership doesn't have a financing arm and their financial partner does. So that's exciting for me to see that you guys are looking at that piece of that. So full disclosure, before last week, I actually went out and did an audit of the website because I know you guys were doing a lot of things in the environment online, and I hadn't really spent much time there. And I saw that there was a little button situated over the left-hand side of the web page where you can log into online banking or apply to become a member, and right smack between that said video banking. And it's almost where it just feels like it's a part of the channel and a part of the experience. And I think that, by not proactively pushing it or marketing and advertising it right now, that's a really good place to put it, to just sample that, to see what the response will be, who's going to adopt that. And then going into next year, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to bring something like the new widget into that environment and put that down there, broadcast that to make it where it just follows the member throughout the site. But, of course, I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm now thinking about future strategy and how do we help you to, go into that next chapter and that next phase, if you will.
I actually have a great story about that little button.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it. I love the stories.
So we had a member that actually was on our phone line waiting to be answered and decided to go to our website to look for a different phone number to try to call.
Okay.
Little does he know every phone number channels to us anyway.
Oh, the magic of the
But
phone system.
that's right. So he was looking online and he saw the video banking and clicked it and wanted to know what it was. And sure enough, he got our agent, Michael, who then he said, "Hey, this is great. I was able to just hang up on you guys because you didn't answer and you answered this quicker. So I might call this sooner." And so I think, once again, with us not advertising, we're putting it strategically for people to see.
Yeah.
We're telling people over the phone, why don't you do online banking and everything, the video banking with us, and people love it. They're getting through to us. We're answering. We're meeting them where they need, and I can't stress that enough. I know I sound like a broken record, but I absolutely love that our credit union does that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that you guys are doing that too. And it's not a broken record. I think it's something that needs to continue to be spoken because it is a shift of mindset and honestly a shift of direction for a lot of individuals who are uncomfortable to go to that space. But like abandoning, and you're not abandoning the phone, but it almost feels like you're almost maybe leaving that channel behind when you bring out video banking or chat or text. But it is about doing exactly what you said, Dan, which is meeting that member where they are at or where they want to be met, because it's not always going to be the phone. And to be fair, not every member wants to be met in that place. It's these
Correct.
other areas. And if you're not, the hard line stance I take is if you're not offering that, somebody else is, and the members will go and find that, right? And that's just the unfortunate nature of the industry right now is there's so many options to be banked. If you're going to let me use that term, then I think that they're going to go find that. But you guys investing in that, identifying that, I think is key. I 100% think it's key. One thing earlier, and I don't want to jump back and forth, but I don't want to close the book on the branch conversation yet. So the interactive teller machine strategy is something that we see probably in 85 to 90% of the clients that we work with at Invo Solutions. It's a very common strategy that is married together with what we can do, but obviously that's solving for retail. So talk us through that as much as you can with your knowledge of that platform. From the ITM strategy, what was the decision to roll that out? So I'm asking you to kind of go back in time. What was the idea to roll that out?
Sure.
How did you roll it out? I heard you talk about in branch. Are you also doing drive up? Kind of share the strategy with our insider guests that are here that are maybe considering interactive teller machines or evaluating, hey, how does this work with our other channels?
Yeah, so our Brunswick and Skowhegan branch was actually the first branches that we actually went with the PTMs instead of the ITMs, back with the Eugenius system before it was sold. So I don't remember, I think it was 2011. Yes, sorry. Yeah. So in 2011, we implemented the PTMs. At the time, they were only offered inside. There wasn't the drive-through model, but fun little fact, we were actually the first financial institution in the state of Maine to implement the personal teller
I did not
machines.
know that. There's a trivia question.
Yep. So our there was a bank later that did implement them and started posting on the radio that they were the first institution, and we had to let them know we already had them, and so they changed it to they're the first bank that had them, which they are.
Yeah.
We're the first institution, but
I love that.
So that was a pretty neat, experience. So that's where we came up with, in our Brunswick branch and Skowhegan, having those personal teller machines. Our Brunswick branch has the traditional tube system right now, because at the time there was not an outside option. Our Yarmouth branch is a newer branch, which actually has the drive-through ITM.
Okay.
And our Lewiston ATM at the time was end of life. And we decided to put an ITM in, which is now our drive-through / ATM in Lewiston, which is kind of neat. So, and we've moved one of our Yarmouth to Lisbon. So we've got 3 drive-through ones, 3 branches that have drive-through ITMs. The rest are inside in Brunswick, Bodenham, and Skowhegan and Yarmouth. So we have a few branches that have them and a few that don't.
I think about what you just said, and I'm just kind of letting it resonate here. But I mean, you guys have been deploying technology that I would say is far ahead of a lot of the industry for a while. I mean, all the way back
Yeah.
to the time frame that you just mentioned. That's a long time, and that was, as you stated. I mean, the technology that was deployed initially before it became an ITM was referred to as PTM, and that was a very small niche group that was deploying that. But you've been taking your members on this journey for such a long time. I think that they're probably expectant for you guys to be cutting edge at this point, which I think is incredible. I think it's a differentiator for the credit union. I think that it's also indicative of your focus on service, and continuing to evaluate, like, how do we best serve the member, right? And so I would like to draw a parallel to that, to something that I believe in, which is treating the website and then the mobile channel as a digital branch, right? So I figure there's a physical branch, which is your branch footprint that you already articulated, then the digital branch, which is your website, and then the actual app on the mobile device. How has the credit union, in your estimation, been able to build out a platform that services the member across each one of those uniquely, but then also kept that member service on the forefront? Kind of what are the strategies, the ideologies around making sure that you're meeting the member, to use your language, where they're at across all of those?
I think a lot of it comes with just training the staff not to focus at how many messages or transactions are, to just treat each person, give them the time, give them the space. So some members prefer the online banking messages because they get responded to. And so we have them, we don't want them copying, pasting answers. We want them to sound live, and make sure that they're helping them where they need to be, giving them the option. We've even, the video banking piece, we've even turned phone calls into that. We've sent them an email link with their software, which is super helpful to show them things. And it's just finding out, how do they want to be treated? How are they in a hurry and they want things quickly, or do they want you to spend time and explain how to, online banking, getting that set up, that for some people that just aren't that computer literate. Yeah. So they need the extra time, and showing them through the Invo platform is able to walk them through, this is what it looks like, and this is how, has been kind of nice too. We've used that piece.
Yeah, I don't think I think that's the norm and not the exception to norm. I know you made that statement that some people just aren't comfortable with that or challenged by that. I think the last data I saw was there was an over 85% abandonment rate for online forms or digital forms when there's no ability to assist people to answer questions. I mean, that's significant. I'm not a statistician, but 15% success rate is pretty low. So if we can do anything to move that needle even incrementally, then you're going to be winning, I think, for sure.
I mean, even for us, we had a live agent answering the phone without a press 1, press 2 for a little while there. Just recently, we have 2 options now. Loans and new accounts, press 1. All else, press 2 or stay on the line. We wanted as little speed bumps as possible to make sure that they get to a live person, whether it be email, chat, mobile banking, however it is. We want to make sure that they get to a live agent.
So let's talk about that in the operational side of it. So your specific sphere of influence and expertise is obviously the contact center, and that touches everything. That's why your knowledge is so deep in the operation of the credit union and what you've already shared. But what are your perspectives on that? So when someone calls in, using that example again, they can push 1 or push 2. Are you routing calls to specific subject matter experts, or are they coming in? So like that, the first one, is it going to specifically to that team of expertise, and the second one's kind of that catch-all bucket, and then you can manage calls? Yes. Is that how that works?
Yeah. We wanted individuals that were experienced with the loans and new accounts to make sure that we started off as a jack of all trades. Everybody did everything, and that works sort of, but it's a long training piece to get them comfortable with how that works. So getting our members to an expert, as a subject matter expert, like you said, that who knows how loans work, that knows how, the new accounts or tough account things, and able to answer those questions. So we generally get our coordinators that are that phone call, video, all that. We start to have them, a couple of them learn new accounts so that way they can slowly transition that way. So the longer they're here, they can move their way up. We actually have 3 groups here. We have associates that are our ITM and Invo calls, online banking messages. They just don't generally take the phone calls except from our branches. So that way they're available for those video calls faster.
Okay.
We have coordinators that do all that plus take the inbound calls. And then we have loan officers that can assist in those, but primarily focus on new accounts and loans.
All right. So this was the direction I was going. So you've already taken us there, which is awesome. Did you start out with that strategy by having these teams specialized or focused on those specific channels, or was that something that you evolved into? Maybe unpack that a little bit more from an operational decision standpoint.
We evolved into that.
Okay.
I mean, when I took over the call center in 2007, there was only 3 of us, and now there's 25 of us.
Yeah.
So
it's a little bit of growth and change.
A little bit of growth.
Yeah.
When you're a small team, everybody has to know everything. And we were, at first, we were not doing new accounts or loans. We were passing those off to the branches. But 2011 really changed it for us with the PTMs and the Smart Office software that we created on our own. And it worked, but it was different, and gave us that opportunity to start learning loans and new accounts. So we grew into that. We actually started from our administration team, helping them with debit card orders, disputes, things like that, and then transitioned more to a retail branch of our own, a digital branch, with especially that growth of the PTMs and now ITMs and the kiosk and everything. So it really evolved over time where, we were just growing in staff, and it made more sense, instead of having somebody brand new come in and have to learn loans and new accounts and on top of regulations and admin, like you just keep adding,
Yeah.
We can start them off as an associate, get just like you would in a branch, have a teller be a teller, and then learn to be a loan officer, and then learn to be an assistant or things like that. So it really helps our staff grow over time. They can move up without leaving our department, which is nice. And they already have some experience with the video banking right from the get-go, because our associates are answering the general queue call, but they don't see the new accounts and loan calls. So it gets them used to that piece so they can grow into it pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's great. And what a lot of, there's a lot of growth that happened there in a very short amount of time, in addition to just the strategy and the deployment of the strategy. So, when I think about that team, is the team going to continue to evolve in that direction? Are you looking at any cross training, or as you pick up maybe new communication channels, like how that would be processed or covered? Is there any thought to that, or if you're comfortable sharing anything like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, right now, I think our 3 groups is really kind of where our sweet spot is right now. But as we grow, obviously, as I've already told you, we're always willing to pivot onto the next thing that we think might need to be. Right now, our associates are only 3 individuals right now, but they are strong 3 individuals that come in and take the bulk of the ITMs and the messages and the scanning. And so we've got some downtime if need be for them to work on other things. But they're kind of our group to potentially move up to be that call center group, because they already have that knowledge of the credit union, rather than trying to hire from without, which we do that too. But bringing those people in has a definitely plus to it, that we can get them to help us that. So right now, I think those 3 groups are where we're at, but we just grew those 3 groups a little bit over time. So who knows? It could turn into a 4th down the road, but right now, I think we're where we need to be.
Yeah, and it's obviously working, and it's working very well. And I think that's
Yeah.
great. It's just a testament to being able to identify how to be successful, then making sure that you're inspecting that, right? So that that strategy still works, and not being afraid to pivot or evolve, which you just opened the door to that, right? This is working today.
Right.
It's meeting the needs that you have, but also not being afraid to say, well, guess what? This wouldn't have worked X number of years ago, but, as you grow and evolve, that could change, right? And being willing to understand that, I think is awesome. One more question about the ITMs before we
Yeah.
move forward is you've had them out there for quite a while, and you shared a little bit about the initial strategy. You shared the size of your call center and how many ITMs are you supporting? That, and I don't know if you answered that question or if we've even brought that up, but I think that's a good question to articulate when you think about that size of a team and supporting telephony, video banking and branch at the kiosk. Now starting to test video banking online a little bit, but not pushing it. And then the ITM channel in branch and drive. What does that footprint look like?
So we have 11 ITMs right
Okay.
now. So we have one in Bodenham, one in Lisbon. We have 3 in Yarmouth, 2 in Skowhegan, 3 in Brunswick.
Okay.
One in Lewiston. I don't know if I said that already.
I wasn't counting, so you could say yes or no, and
sorry.
I wouldn't remember. I was impressed you were just rattling them off. I didn't even ask for specifics, that you already had it. That's good.
There's a lot up there, so just trying to bring it up to the forefront of my brain. So
is that going to be a strategy you guys continue to expand when you think about your full branch footprint, or maybe even some offsite locations as well? Is that something that you're continuing to evaluate?
I think we're always evaluating it, looking at it. I mean, we, obviously we haven't had a new branch in a little while. So I mean, as we grow, that's, we just got 4 new counties. We'll see what that turns into. But once again, that helps us big time with the video banking, because not trying to give you a shameless plug, but for us, it helps because we don't have any branches in those new 4 counties, but we do with video banking. We can help them out and they don't have to travel. So that's a nice piece for us.
I love that. And if we talk about that, and I appreciate shameless plugs, by the way, so you don't have to stop or apologize for them. And by the way, this episode is brought to you by Invo Solutions and their video banking platform.
That's right.
Thinking about that technology and your deployment strategy, one of the things that we hear a lot, and I would say, almost all of the time, is nervousness or even apprehension to deploy. And it's because it's viewed as something that is almost insurmountable until you feel that you have every single box checked that you could possibly create a box for in preparation. And of course, my perspective is, well, that's true, but if you try to wait and, align to perfection, you'll never get there. So my question with that groundwork lay there is, what would your advice be or feedback for the insiders that are here thinking about, how do we even start? Like, what was it like to deploy? How did you understand that it can be achievable? So what would your advice or suggestions or even strategy that you'd be willing to share with those that might be nervous or apprehensive to even start going down a video banking path?
Yeah, I think the big thing is have your staff use it as much as possible. And I'm not just talking on what they do, but what the member would see. Have them be the member. Have them, try to go through the process and see it. You really have to give them a lot of training to make sure that they're comfortable with it. Because if they're comfortable with it, they'll cross-sell it on their own. It speaks for itself. But if they're not comfortable with it, then the member's never going to get comfortable with it. You really have to make them comfortable, explain where things are and say, don't worry, I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to show you how to do this. And it's pretty simple. I mean, even if sometimes the member's not in the best Wi-Fi or cell signal area, so we have had some challenges, but guess what? The chat still works and we're able to send them a chat and they're able to chat back. We've even gotten creative and actually called them. So we've used the phone piece while the video piece is going on. And so, I mean, it's just their Wi-Fi was not good. That seems to be the big issue that we're finding, and it's not really an Invo issue. It's just the member
Sure.
side is going on. So for us, we've been able to help people take away their fears, let them know we've got the chat, that we can help them out. We've sent them the link too. If it didn't work, we've called them and told them what's going on, sent them the link, and they don't have to call back in again. We've been able to assist them and make it as painless and as easy as possible. But you've got to get the staff to use it, not only at the kiosk, but on their phone, and get them to role play. Role play is huge, and I know it makes people uncomfortable, but sometimes that's the best way to do it, so you get comfortable with it.
Man, you're absolutely right. Always the way I looked at that is, wouldn't you rather be uncomfortable with your colleague as opposed to being uncomfortable with a member, right? So if you could do that role play and work through the kinks and getting your confidence built up, then it's going to show through when it actually comes to the rubber meeting the road, to use that analogy. So with all that being said, go back in time to that initial phase of, okay, we're going to do something different and unique that we've not done this before. How did you prepare? I agree with your strategies. How did you prepare the team, though, that this was coming and it was going to be something to their benefit and maybe not a detriment? Because a lot of times we'll hear, well, we're afraid to deploy this because the team's going to immediately think, oh, well, this is to reduce positions or head count. And the members are even responding to it. They're worried about the response of, well, the members are going to look at this as, we're using technology to eliminate staff. And, let's be fair. In some cases, in some circumstances, it's not necessarily to eliminate staff. It's because we can't hire staff either. But what was it like at the credit union for you and the team to prepare the member, as well as have that you've got great training recommendations, but how was the team prepared?
Yeah, so I mean, we dealt with that a lot back in 2011 when Brunswick and Skowhegan were our first branches opened with those ITMs, PTMs at the time, and we did have a lot of members say, geez, you're taking away jobs. We were actually able to tell them that we're actually not. We added 4 new individuals in our call center to make sure we added jobs, yes, elsewhere, but we still added jobs.
Yeah.
And what we told people is, we can have staff there, but they're not going to be productive. They're not going to be answering your calls. They're not going to, this keeps them engaged, just keeps them to be a subject matter expert. Now they're not just, and I don't want to say it that way. They're not just at that branch. Right. They're not just comfortable with their branch. They're comfortable with all the branches at that point. And so we're able to really help our staff and help our members that way. And really, we had to do a big explaining to our members that, in these locations, they're smaller locations. Skowhegan's in a Walmart, Brunswick's a standalone, but the way it's sitting, it's a smaller footprint just based on the land size we had. So explaining that we didn't take away staff, we just added staff somewhere else. So that's the important piece, to educate the members.
Yeah, I think that's great. And how is the staff internally? Did they see this as a, hey, we're going to invest in this technology to better serve the member? Were they willing to adapt that ideology, or did you guys have to do a lot of training and educating to get them comfortable so that they didn't feel like their job was at risk?
Yeah, I mean, we mostly set them up in newer branches as we got going.
Okay.
So we didn't really have that piece. For example, our Lewiston branch, the Lewiston-Lisbon branch shares staff for Saturdays.
Okay.
So they were able to close on Saturday in Lewiston because our ITM is open. That branch always closed at 5 o'clock, and now it's open till 7 outside. So it actually created more hours for them. The branch can work in Lisbon, and they rotate now, but that also closes at 12 o'clock on Saturday, for example. Our ITMs are open till 3 o'clock. So we've actually able to been expanding our hours to Lisbon and Lewiston, which were traditional banking hours. Now they're retail hours outside at the ITMs, which is a huge benefit to our members, to tell people, yeah, inside might be closed, but you can still go to the location and get us through the drive up.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say what you won't, which is a strong leadership team that was believing in these strategies, and then
Yeah.
project champions like yourself that were willing to help the member to come into that arena, but then also help the staff to be prepared. And it doesn't have to be a big lift, but it needs to be something where you're able to share the vision, share the reason why, help to go through that, encourage the role play, have them use the technology themselves so they can see the benefits firsthand, and then be able to relay that with honesty and transparency to the member. That is only successful with good leadership and someone who has good, strong oversight of it. So this is me commending you guys on doing that. You yourself in the executive team of doing that very well, because that's how everyone else is going to be able to follow the lead that's being shared with them. So great job on that. That is honestly why I believe that it was successful. So
Yeah, I mean, and fun fact, our you talk about our leadership team. We're very fortunate. Our whole senior management team, started besides one actually now, but started from the teller line. Even our CEO started as a teller and moved their way up, and so they've been there. They understand it, and they support us greatly. So we definitely do have a strong leadership team, a strong board. We have a member that is on the board that was from the Maine Harvest Association that merged with us. We have a member from the board, Knox County, that merged with us, not to mention the BOW presence. So we're very fortunate from our senior team, our board of directors that are very understand it, been in it, and forward thinking.
makes a huge difference. It does.
Yeah.
So what's next? You think about, what you guys have done in, efforts to serve the member, have the credit union continue to grow. What are you looking at next from, service channels, strategies, maybe even technologies, whatever you're willing to share? Because a lot of the times when we bring new clients on, they'll get live, they'll be successful, and then it's always like, okay, well, we're here to where to go from here, right? And it's an evolving industry, and it's an evolving service channel. So, as much as you're willing to share, what is on the horizon for you? What are you guys talking about? What are you looking at? What are you considering? Even if you're not married to strategy yet, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a lot of different things. Obviously, we've got a lot of. I mean, we're 12 counties now. What does that include? But as far as the credit union itself, we are looking at our phone system has to go cloud here at some point. We're still premise
Yeah.
based, so we've got that big project that we have to do next year. Obviously, we are contemplating chat and things like that. We just haven't jumped on that yet, but we have a lot that we're looking at. It's just which way we're going to go, and that's part of strategic planning that we just had, and we're right in the heart of it right now.
Yeah.
So
You're looking at the right things, and don't worry, I'm not holding you to anything. These aren't verbal contracts, Dan. But it is, I think, illuminating for those that might be where you're situated at, or even evolving into we're wanting to deploy video, and then what else are we wanting to do? Because we do see rapid adoption into maybe chat first and then video today. So all these new channels that are being adopted and implemented and used by members are sometimes changing the order of things, right? And so I appreciate you sharing that. Believe it or not, we're getting close to bringing our time together to an end, but I would like to give you an opportunity before I have a few additional questions here at the end, but I want to give you an opportunity to just share anything that you would like to share about the credit union, about strategies, about any of the technology we've discussed that maybe we haven't got into yet. It would give you a platform to share anything else that you would like to share there, Dan.
Yeah, I think it's important to communicate all the time with the branches, with the team, with the staff. Being that teamwork effort is huge, and we're very fortunate that we have that here. Growing into the call center, I mean, talked about all the evolving. I mean, we moved to 4 different locations over time, so we're always looking at. We've outgrown our space, so we had to kind of keep going. So we're in a newer space that's growing. So we're always looking to steer the ship in the way that it needs to go to help our membership. And for us, we're very fortunate. I know I'm repeating myself on that, but our board, our senior team, even our staff. Our staff is very excited and committed, which is great for us. So we're very fortunate that way.
That's great. So I teased this earlier. What's this information about a disc jockey? I want to hear about how you got into this.
So my buddy Rick was a disc jockey for years, and a bunch of them retired disc jockeys, and they went on an online music station. So for a while, I was helping them out when it first started. So WQRY 106 is his little. I'll give him a shameless plug there, but a lot of fun. Mostly 60s, 70s, and 80s music. So it was pretty neat. I helped him out on the Saturday morning show for a little while there when he first started. But due to time, as you talked about doing recreation in the credit union and kids, I didn't do it long, but it was fun while it lasted. My wife actually did the Friday night 80s show for a while too. So
wow, so you're both a radio talent.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this, and I had this conversation. I can't remember who this was last week, but what is the definition of classic rock today, right? And I was scrolling through XM radio, and it was like, I can't remember the name of the station, but it was a classic rock station, and they were playing 90s music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what does that mean to the set? Well, for me, 60s and 70s is what, I grew up with classic rock because that's what my dad listened to. And I'm like,
Right.
What is that qualified as now? Is it just they've expanded the genre to include more decades, or is that now ancient rock? I mean, we retitling that? Where does Led Zeppelin fall in there? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, well, and it's when you go to the store and all of a sudden you're hearing over the store speaker there, you're hearing your own songs. You're like, ouch.
Yeah, and like when Pearl Jam starts to be played as music in an elevator, I've definitely become old in a category there. I don't know. So I think that's great. I love that. There's a lot of passion for music at Invo as well, and that's something we haven't really talked a lot about. But there's a lot of passion for music there. So this is a conversation we may have to continue to expand on offline, which will be fun. Well, Dan, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I just to your listeners that are thinking about joining, you're a good team, and it's been easy to work with you guys when we had questions. Even the support tickets, your team gets back to us pretty quickly, and that's super helpful. So we appreciate that. We've been successful, I think, with our testing this before on our other software. This just gives us that next step that allows us to not necessarily have to have them come in. We were pretty excited to get the Surfs Up Award there at the the awards there. So that I think is a testament that our members are kind of used to the video banking, and the fact that they can do it from home. Just word of mouth has grown it. We're talking about really promoting it more next year, and we really haven't put it on Facebook or our newsletters or anything. It's just been word of mouth and a little button on our website. So that's pretty exciting to see it grow the way it is already.
Another additional unmotivated plug. I love that. Dan's been very generous in that, and I appreciate that. I love this feedback, and we honestly should have introduced you and the team from the beginning as award-winning Dan Leeman and 5 County Credit Union, because you're right. And for everyone who heard that, like, what's that Surfs Up Award? So at the annual users conference, now it's my turn to give a shameless plug. So when we have our annual conference, which was just conducted in September, we had an awards banquet for the first time this year where we honored those that were using our tools and resources at Invo Solutions in new and creative ways, kind of the best of, or, really doing cutting edge things. But you guys walked away with the most significant increase in growth for the web channel, and you guys aren't even promoting it yet, so I can only wait to see what's going to happen there. But yeah, I should have started off with the award-winning Surfs Up award-winning team at 5 counties. So, damn, that's my mistake. I'm sorry. Next time, I will forever now announce you as award-winning Dan Leeman. Well, Dan, listen, I am so grateful for your time. You have been a fantastic guest. And we've been talking about this for a while, so I'm glad we were finally able to make it happen. Hats off to you and the team at 5 County for doing a fantastic job. We are so grateful for this partnership, but I'm grateful for you joining us today. Dan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate
you. All right, Insiders, we're going to wrap it up here today. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.